Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. Tonight, Drew Crawley is out on assignment. Isn't that what they used to say, like when somebody wasn't there for 60 minutes or, on assignment? Okay. Drew's on assignment, so he had a work thing, so he couldn't be here. But sitting in for Drew is our good friend, Alan Bishop. Welcome, Alan.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. I did something today that I've never done in my life.
Uh-oh.
I played golf in hail. I hadn't played golf in a long time. I used to play quite a bit, and then just the last year and a half or so, I haven't played at all, really. But I ended up playing today with my son and his father-in-law and his brother-in-law, and it was kind of cool and windy, and then it rained and got us nice and wet there at the beginning. Then it kind of cleared off, and then about the seventh green, we're putting through hail. So I've played in snow, I've played through freezing weather, I've played when it's well over 100 degrees, played in about anything. This was my first time to play in hail, and
little wordplay there. I hate golf, so that would be my eternal punishment. Would be to play playing golf in hell.
Playing golf in hell,
probably with a Nickelback backing track.
Yes, well, that's a little spoiler alert, but yes. But that it was good to get out and actually play, and I hit the ball straight a few times, so that was encouraging too. But we've got a really special show tonight. We are with our good friend Fred Swanson from Goat Distillery and Distill America, and Fred's going to give us a great update on what's going on at Goat, because Fred's been very, very busy. If you follow him on social media, which you should. And we're also going to talk about Distill America, which is coming up very, very quickly. So if you don't have tickets, we'll tell you how you can get them. But before we get into all that, we want to tell you about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who produce content for the whiskey enthusiast. One of the shows on Bar Cart is My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike and Mitch. My Whiskey Den is where craft whiskey is king. Tune in every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. Join in the fun of the chat. That's always a good time. So be sure to do that. Alan, you tell us about your shows, Distillers Talk, One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, If You Have Ghosts, and whatever other 15 different podcasts, books, and other things you have going on.
Thank you for not putting the word quality in front of content when it comes to my shows. I appreciate that. So Distillers Talk is myself and Christy Atkinson. We interview distillers from all over the world, as well as suppliers, maltsters, etc. And we go deep into a little bit of distilling lore as well as distilling technology. I have to cough. Hold on.
One moment, please. Hopefully Alan's all right.
I'm good. There was a cough, and then apparently the electricity might go out because of the weather, whatever.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah. So we interviewed distillers from all over the world. We go super deep. We get super dorky. Let's see. One Piece of Time Distilling Institute is my channel on YouTube where I talk all about home distilling, encourage home distillers to take the next steps within the craft, answer their questions, and cough again. Oh my Lord.
Okay, let me finish this up for you. Do you need me to finish this for you? Okay, all right. So let me tell you about Bar Cart Co-op. Distillers Talk, he already mentioned with he and Christy Atkins. They talk with distillers from across the nation and around the world. One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. Alan started this just as a way for people who are into home distilling, or even maybe you're working for a smaller distillery. If you have a question about anything distilling, email Alan. He'll post a video on YouTube with an answer to that question, hopefully without him coughing through it. I think we'll do that. And is he back? There he is.
I had a moment just now. This is my nightmare. What happened was I tried to kill a sneeze and it turned into a coughing fit. I don't know how that even
Well,
happens.
a sneeze can turn into something much, much
Oh my
worse.
God, right? It could have been a shark. Could have went
Yes, it
south
could have.
quick. Yeah. So the last show is the paranormal show. If you have ghosts, you have everything, where you can get wherever you get your podcasts. It's all about the supernatural, the 4TN, cryptids, high strangeness, and all that fun stuff. And we are about to start season 3, hopefully at the end of May.
Very good. Our show is Bourbon Turntable, which you know because you're here, but we've got one more announcement about that we want to make.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out, which do come out every single Wednesday on all of the services: Spotify, Apple Music, Google, maybe Amazon, definitely YouTube. And always hit that like button, but hit it an odd number of times, so then that way it stays as a like.
All right. Thanks, Mike. We appreciate your contribution to our show every week. So, without further ado, let's welcome Fred Swanson back to Bourbon Turntable. Welcome, Fred.
Thanks. No, thanks. I'm glad to be back. It's fun to be here with Alan.
Yeah. Alan told me before the show that he didn't think that you guys had met before. So I'm glad
We have
we're
not.
solving.
I do not believe we have, Alan.
We are
No, I've heard a
solving
lot
that
about you.
problem.
Yeah, I heard a lot about you, and looking forward to this, and glad to be a part of this, guys. So
Super.
I will attempt not to die anymore tonight.
Oh, well, first of all, Fred, tell everybody that doesn't know what your role is at Dancing Goat.
Sure. I'm the national brand ambassador for Dancing Goat Distillery. Very, very, very focused on our state and our backyard, with a little bit of work in touching states. Previous to this, prior to the pandemic, I traveled the country a lot for all the states that we're in. Now we've kind of dialed it back, and we're super, super focused upon our backyard and getting that right, and then moving forward with next steps when those next steps happen. So right now, big time Wisconsin, touching states, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. Well, we're going to get a little update from you on what's going on at Dancing Goat, and then we're going to get into Distill America.
Sure.
But as we're letting you tell us what's going on at Dancing Goat, Alan and I are going to drink a little booze, and you're welcome to join us, of course. But we're going to start with the Death's Door Gin. And so if you want to give us a quick overview of Death's Door Gin. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then we'll Alan and I drink, and we'll let you tell us what else is going on at Dancing Goat.
Absolutely. No, the Death's Door Gin became available to us when they were in bankruptcy. And it's that classic example of there's kind of a two-pronged approach, I think, particularly in production, but definitely in alcohol production and craft beverage production. One thing that's absolutely true is the first person in your area, whether you say that's your county, your state, or your town, that was the first to pull a DSP in this case, gets a lot of credit. The first person to do that gets a ton of respect because they were fearless. That was Guy Rehorst with Great Lakes Distilling in Milwaukee in our case. And then the product that everybody knows your state for gets the second amount of respect, and that second as in ordinal second as in line item seconds. So Death's Door Gin was this classic bottle that people knew because it was in 50 states and 10 countries at one point. Now we're back in 30-ish, 36 or so, and 10. But it created, along with aviation, probably that category of new American gin, American craft gin, new world gin. It's just a gorgeous product. It changed the mentality of people that didn't think they liked gin into, hold on, the second answer to that question is, what don't you like about gin? And typically that answer would come from, I don't like one type of gin. And you hear it from, I don't like chewing on Christmas trees. I don't like London Dry, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the great thing about gin is that it's a spectrum drink. Whoa, there we go, spectrum drink. And it can have terroir, and it can be everything from very, very juniper forward to very, very botanical, floral, et cetera, and a lot of that is dialed back. So one of the things that we felt very compelled to do, because we didn't have a gin, was to keep that on the market. Keep that product out there in front of consumers and keep it and take it back to year one. So we're not doing a whole lot different. Same still, different city, same recipe, different city. people ask typically if we've changed it. And I guess if you really defined change and how you change something, sure. If you know your stills after X amount of years, well, then sure, you've changed things because you've learned things. With us, it's learning that recipe, learning that still. It's a gorgeous Carl Pot hybrid still that they've used for year one on that gin. And it's just very much an honor for us to continue to keep that in front of consumers.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a beautiful gin in general, and it's one that I've been aware of for a long time. It comes up in conversation a lot, especially doing consultations. It's somebody wants me to design a gin, you can almost guarantee that both Death Store and Aviation are going to get mentioned at some point in time. They're going to come up. So, and I think that it did a lot to not only Americanize gin, but to also make a gin that was eminently sippable of its own accord. Without any mixing or anything of that nature. You know, it sort of elevated that spirit in a way that hadn't really been done in a long time. And it's one of the ones that I really love. I love how soft the entry is. You get the juniper, but then and I'm not sure what botanicals are in there. But to me, that juniper gets pulled back a little bit by almost a little bit of like angelica root and coriander, and it gets softened to some greater degree and becomes one with the actual base alcohol that's there as well. It becomes much smoother. I hate that word, but it becomes much more fatty, much more rounded. So
yeah, it's very approachable.
It's super approachable without being simple. The analogy that I use constantly is, and I'm not here to denigrate anybody's gin. I'm just here to say,
come on, Fred, we can do that.
Nope. The bottom line is there are things that I think our palate can handle and things that our palate cannot. So 86 botanicals is something that nobody can find 86 botanicals. Nobody can find 13. So to keep it simple, and it's that notion of our Italian grandmas, our French grandmas, they cooked simply, as local as possible, as close to the vest as possible, and as flavorful as they could get. Okay. And very few of them. There's not a lot of Italian grandmas that have 17 things in their marinara. Okay. It is really simple, and just keep it there. And then if you garnish correctly, this gin is a classic example of how to find the other two things besides juniper, because there's only 3 things in it. You know, how do you find the coriander? How do you find the fennel? So what I like about it, what I love about it is what Alan said, that notion of that fattiness brings it forward and gives you that demulgency, that initial sip that is for a lot of people defined as smooth. I also like the fact that coriander is now very much able to be found on the American palate. Thank you, Blue Moon, for showing us what orange citrus can do to help you find coriander in craft beverage alcohol. So it's a really straightforward bar for people to find. Okay, if you just regarnish, and then mint is like one of those classic examples. A little bit of salt in a lot of recipes goes a long way. And a little bit of mint in a lot of cocktails can help you find a lot of different things within those cocktails. So mint helps you find fennel, orange citrus helps you find the coriander, and it's just one of those gorgeous little products that we take very little credit for the origin story, just the continuation story.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about it, and this is another little tasting note that I'll throw out there, is almost like because the mouthfeel of it, and because it's so soft, it almost becomes like custardy. It almost becomes like, it almost has its own eggnog sort of quality to it, that rounded thing.
Yeah, and I've played around with pomegranate with this in cocktails. It's fantastic.
And I think one of the things that now these guys were they debuted this thing very differently. And the way they rolled this out 15-ish years ago was they put it in every airport bar where there were travelers, back when there were travelers traveling around, and they put it in hotel lobby bars. The crazy part was then people started asking for it in their home markets, because it was like, oh my God, I had this gin. This bartender recommended it at the airport. Then they had it at the hotel I was staying at. It was a very different, unique, pretty springboard attempt to get that gin out quickly. One of the things that I'll just quote the previous owner, he just said, we lost sight of our backyard. Okay. We were in 50 states, 10 countries. We had 8 people working at the distillery.
Yeah.
So you lose sight of your backyard, you go a little too hard, a little too fast, and suddenly your energy turns into something else. So we're just here to say, we resurrected it. We kept it in front of people. We continued to every day try to improve it. We make a lot of it. and just take it back to where it was year one when people fell in love with it.
Yeah. And it is a fantastic gin, and I will be up in Wisconsin in a few weeks at Distill America, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I need to load back up on my desk store gin. But what else is going on at Dancing Goat? I mean, you guys have had some really cool stuff going on.
We had some really interesting stuff going on. I think one of the things that we put out, and I've got a bottle of it right now, is we've got a bourbon that's going onto the market right now. And if you can see, one of the things that I'm super proud of is the fact that we're calling it out right on the front of the label in a font that's just below our own name. Yep. The fact that we didn't make this. This is sourced whiskey. So I
love that label. That label is awesome. That is like the 1970s like advertisement print is fucking awesome.
Yes.
I love that.
So thank you. One of the things that it's got a sine wave. Mm-hmm. So the next bottle comes at a different angle, and then the one before it comes at a different angle. So if you put them on your back bar, they kind of have this approach.
Yeah.
I like the straightforwardness. I do know that there are a bunch of people that do not. And I won't say that lightly, because we took a big leap into, I mean, look at this label. That is a classic label for whiskey. It's all dark Pantones, screams men all day. And this one is even more traditional in the fact that is just all dark Pantones, and it doesn't really do what this does, which might make it more approachable. And then to say the word blend on it. So that's what we're trying to do. You put those things together, they kind of roll through. So we've done a couple different very old goat bottlings. So you see the one there on the left of your screen. That was a 21-year-old light whiskey that we can't really say where it was from per se, but that one we bottled at cask. The one prior to that was labeled as a 20-year-old very old goat, but it was actually a 21. And that took Nick almost a year to proof down, and then finish in a red port barrel just to get some roundness to it. Mm-hmm. So the Moss family has owned those barrels for a fair amount of time. The very old goat, and then the I Would Rye for You, and here we are in a Prince reference right now.
Yes, I love it.
That bottle looks so velvety on your back bar. This burgundy color, this almost purple notion. So it just screamed a Prince song to the internal people, and so we did that as a 7-year, not limousine rye, but a rye mash that was finished in a red port barrel. And then the Quirky and Humble blend we debuted at the distillery on Friday. It's the first bourbon that we've come out that was not a single barrel bourbon, that came out under our name, aged 7 years, all in Quercus Humboldti from year one. So it is a straight bourbon, because to be straight, it doesn't have to be an American white oak. It just needs to be in that container. So that Andean oak from Colombia, that Quercus Humboldti, just lends a gorgeous caramely note to that bourbon that takes it off in a little different capacity and a different flavor profile. So typical of the Dancing Goat, we're trying not to be another American craft doing a rye, a bourbon, a single malt, but to throw twists and turns within each of those categories.
Yeah. And I've always appreciated the fact that you don't shy away from what you source.
Right.
You know, you're there's nothing that you're trying to hide in the shadows or deceive anybody whatsoever, and that is something that I really respect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I won't say it's high time, but it's high time that the industry did more of that. I mean, it's unfortunate that the majority of consumers pick up bottles and don't know what those words mean, because
Right.
we obfuscate on labels.
Right.
So instead of being open, direct, and honest and transparent, we try to tell different stories far too often.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's I mean, that's those 3 bottles have come out in a relatively short period of time, right?
About the last 10 weeks.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
The very old goat is sold through. The first version sold through. I Would Rye for You is currently available at our distributors for local purchase, so that's available in Wisconsin as we go. And people are ordering it now, and it'll be on your retail shelves. The Quirky and Humble blend It's just us. I mean, quirk is Humboldty, get it? Quirky, humble.
Right.
I mean, that's that notion of, the geeks understand what it was named for. I mean, I think the geeks understand the Prince reference and the color of that bottle. At the same time, that blend, that bourbon, that quirky, is going to be probably on shelves in about 2 weeks. So right away, second week of May for sure.
Okay. In time for Distill America.
And it'll be at Distill America as well,
Yes.
as well as some other R&D stuff that we have going on for sure.
I'm going to have you pick me up one of those, Kevin. For
Yep.
sure.
Tell me what you need. I will mule it back to you, or goat it back to you, as the case may be. So we've talked about Distill America, referenced it a couple of times. Tell everybody what Distill America is, what the history of it is, and what's going on with it this year.
Perfect. This year's our 15th year, and I will be very honest with you. It comes from a source of angst and dismay on my part from probably close to 20 years ago. As an event organizer around alcohol events, who has organized those for 30-ish years, when I get priced out of an event like Whiskey Fest as a white middle-class American, that to me is the wrong people are in that room. Okay. I would theorize and say very directly that the only people that need to be in any whiskey tasting room first are bar owners, bar buyers, liquor buyers, people that work the shelves of liquor aisles first. Those are the people that have to sell all of our stuff. Okay.
Mhm.
Those people need to understand. And if that ticket is $350 to get in that room, then they're not in that room. It's very clear. They're not in the room. So if you're seating your room with a bunch of 1%ers, and I'm not saying that to be divisive, I'm saying it to just point out the fact that those people are already buying everything. Okay. They're already there. It's just another night for them. Sure, they're going to chase and toss and do all the things that they do. But then if you start to add in $5,000 table fees for distillers, and then you start to have to pay for this and pay for that, my wife and I can't afford to go to those events because it's $1,000 just for me to go. And then if I add her on, we're looking at a $1,500 night in Chicago. I thought I could do something different. Okay. And I thought if I can get the fees and the booth table fees down, if I could always acknowledge that big Kentucky and big Tennessee have a great place within that room, and then all the craft guys do as well, and then we highlight what goes on in America, then I don't have to fight the Scotch battle. I don't have to fight the Armagnac, the Yak battle. I don't have to fight any of the other Irish, et cetera, battles. Then we can celebrate what we do here in this country. So second to what goes on at ADI was a little thing that I put together with some friends called Distill America. And it's amazing if nobody's taking any salary or any money, what you can do if you're all volunteers. If you're all just in it to give and showcase, allow distillers to showcase their product at a feasible, affordable space. So it has always been and will always continue to be a event that is not just a tasting of what's on the shelves in Wisconsin or what's available in Wisconsin, because we have a pilot program to get people permitted for that event. We help to defray the cost with people that don't have licensing for the state of Wisconsin with help with their out-of-state shipper permits, hoping that that's a one-time thing and that they would want to come into the state after their 2-year permit expires. So with that, and then having really low $100, $200 table fees, it's amazing what you can do when suddenly everybody's at a $70 ticket. So that to me is a different event. And that's an event that makes sense for our distillery marketing wise, because I'm now presenting to not only consumers, but the people that have to talk about our stuff in the shot, from the back bar or from the shelves of a liquor store. So
that's great too for craft distillers in general, because, and we're not currently distributed in Wisconsin, but, we did, when I was at Copper and Kings, we did a lot in Wisconsin, and
sure.
So there's a lot of those states, how it is. They get overlooked a lot of times. Right. But those are the people that are going to buy your bottle more than one time if they like it.
Oh,
right.
Absolutely.
They're going to stick with it and they're going to become core customers. So
the number one Copper and Kings on-premise account is in Madison, Wisconsin. So it blows me away that a couple things happened. I made enough, and by enough, a couple, less than this many, connections that were the right connections initially by traveling in Kentucky. So just talking to Jim Rutledge when Jim was at Four Roses and saying, dude, what do you need for me to get you up to Wisconsin? He said, take me ice fishing. Sure.
Sold.
And he was not in state. There were Four Roses. Wisconsin was on tier 3, maybe tier 4 for rollout of Four Roses. coming back 15 years ago into the, the U.S.
Wow.
market. We jumped up 2 levels just upon what he saw when he came to Wisconsin. And that's what I'm trying to show to people and give that experience. So it's fun to have these craft distillers bring out stuff for the VIP hour, to bring out R&D stuff, to say to people, you know what? We don't know if this is going to make a bottle yet. You tell us. We need some feedback on this bottle. And then if there's that left over for the general population in the general session, then great. Get that feedback from them too. But it's
get it in front of customers that actually care too, as
people
opposed
that care, people that are
Yeah.
spending $70. And for me, the rest of that story is, how do you get people there safely? How do you get them home safely? How do you feed them enough? And then how do you message that story to say, I'm not feeding you enough, so damn it, have 2 meals before you come to my event.
Yep.
So we've kind of hit on a pretty good formula, I think. We are now an outdoor event that is a result of COVID. I don't know if that'll last for the rest of time, but it certainly is working for us now. That is because there is not the right size room in Madison to take us to that next level. We have rooms that'll hold about 400 to 600 people. The next rooms are 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 rooms. If I have to pay that rent for that, then suddenly my tickets are $150.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't want my tickets to be $150.
Right.
So moving it outside kept that energy. Last year, we had a great day, knock wood. It turned out to be like 85, sunny, breezy, right on the edge of the lake. We're in the Bree Stevens location that we're at is an old CCC build from the Depression. That is a gorgeous old baseball stadium that now houses our professional soccer team. We'll be on midfield with seminars that are underneath in their forward club, which is a bar. So we've got unlimited food. The $70 tickets are the ones that are left. DistillAmerica.com, or find us on our Facebook page called Distill America. There it is. So 2023. Cool. And it feels really good to put something back on when you've got no vested monetary interest in it other than the fundraiser that we use it for, which is for the Wisconsin Distillers Guild. The money goes back to the guild for educational purposes.
Right. Yeah. That's super fun and super important to do stuff like that for sure.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. So that's part of the beauty of it is it's not designed for somebody to, make a stack of cash on the event. It is truly giving back. And that's every time that I've seen you, whether it's on my Whiskey Den or when you're on our show before, or when I met you last September up in the distillery, you're very genuine in your enthusiasm and your desire about the whiskey industry in general. You're dancing goat, but you're wanting to bring everybody else up too, and that says a lot. And Wisconsin, especially, I'd tried several Wisconsin whiskeys before, but when I went up there and visited and toured the facilities, what you guys have going on is incredible.
Thank you.
The distillery is immaculate. The rick houses that you're building, fantastic. It rivals anything that's here in Kentucky. So you've got a lot of really good things going on. As a matter of fact, we had a show last week with a band out of Madison, Wisconsin called Bourbon House.
Yep.
And we tasted limousine rye and what was the other one?
You have some J. Henry or some Deerfield?
Yes, it was Jane Henry. It was Bellefontaine whiskey bourbon, yeah. And so just showcasing, a great Wisconsin band, but also here's some great Wisconsin whiskey to go along with it. So really excited about what you guys have going on.
Thank you. I mean, it's and Alan can speak to this as well from the producer side. Is the Henrys did us a solid when we were building the rick, and they kept close to 1,000 barrels in their barns. Now we're doing them a solid by keeping about 1,000 or so at the rick house.
Nice.
So that rick house has a capacity of about 700-800, of which right now 1,000 are J. Henry barrels while they build their brand new warehouse barn / rick, which is a really unique project. I think, and I was talking to Joe Senior today, and it was just very, very, very enlightening what they're trying to do on their farm. So, to me, it's that notion of we're all in the industry, and if we can all help each other, no one's better when one guy's better. We're all better when we're all better. It's that simple. So, and for me to be in the industry, I mean, I was putting on Distill America when I was a high school teacher, with zero vested interest in the game at all, except for helping my friends out that were already in the industry. So, not everybody has the ability to necessarily organize events to the capacity of thousands up to 10,000 people, but I've done it a long time that if I can help the industry that way, that was one of my give backs.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to see that kind of cooperation too, because here in Indiana, we're still figuring out how to do that to some degree, right? We just now got our guild together and all that stuff, and it seems like the spirit of cooperation is there finally. But I think everybody here, it was such a new thing post prohibition to finally be able to do this. I think we all needed like 6 or 7 years just to be like, what the hell are we even doing? What's happening here? So
right. And I do think that I think there are parallels. There are not 100% parallels to the craft beer industry. There are parallels. I mean, the genesis story of craft beer couldn't be more different than craft spirits. I mean, if you're the craft distiller saying that we're a reaction to limited choices and shoddy product coming out of Kentucky and Tennessee, that sounds like fool's gold. Which was the genesis story for beer. Certainly not the genesis story for spirits. But to be able to, and where we fit in, I think, in spirits is to provide. And it's no longer the case where providing a local alternative is the end. It's provide a local alternative that is good. Okay. And that is where we slot in craft. Okay. Because you're never none of us are going to supplant, even at mid-tier level, we're not going to supplant Kentucky and Tennessee. No. What we can do is we can make our state proud of what we're doing. Yep. We can make our city proud of what we're doing. And we can say, you know what? We're not the biggest, we're not the best, but damn it, we're a really, really good bottle to have at your house.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And make it to where, people who don't live there want to come there and they think it's a really, really good bottle, right?
Absolutely.
That's when the real success starts to happen.
Yep. You start moving bottles across state line. Yep. You get your buddies bringing stuff back when they go on vacation. That's how it works.
Well, yes, absolutely. Hey, so let's, next thing we're going to try from Dancing Goat is a bottle of corn whiskey. I picked this up when I was in Wisconsin back in September, and it is 115.6 proof, aged 7 years. What can you tell us about this bottle?
This is one of those fun little projects that Nick is a flavor guy. His father is a flavor guy. They have excellent palates, and corn whiskey is one of those things that if you know corn whiskey as a consumer, you probably know mellow corn to your product. Great product at 100 proof for cocktailing, but nobody knows aged corn whiskey. And corn whiskey is this thing that Nick and his father have bought for years, barrels of, and we have sat and laid down things 6, 7, and 8 years old. Corn whiskey is not a white canvas, but it's certainly a tan canvas. Okay. And you can paint all over it by doing different finishes and doing different age profiles, bottling at different proofs. Our goal in corn whiskey is to demystify it and to get it in front of consumers to say, hold on, this is still another thing that you can do. It's not that far afield from bourbon. And it's not as far afield as people think it is.
No, not at all. You're absolutely correct.
So what kind of barrels did you put this in, Fred?
Right now, those are all second use. Okay.
Yep.
So that's why that color is the way it is. I mean, it's not overly dark. Okay. Try to get up to the light. Actually, there you can kind of see through it a little bit. So it's certainly bigger than tan. But it's that second use barrel that gets us that little bit of bump, but also gives us that little bit of roundness. We use a lot of second use barrels. The whole limousine project is built on second use barrels. And it's not us being any smarter or anything more. It's just how do you thank you. It's how do you use that second use barrel to diminish those green tannins and the punch that comes through in your typical ryes, which is what people tell you all the time they don't like. So how can you create a rye that will appeal to bourbon drinkers? Well, one of the ways we did it was to use a different wood aging program. And we're similar to those in our corns. So we've done a lot of finishings on corns. We've done a lot of finishes on the limos as well. So we've done some aromatic bitters barrels finishes. We've done some spiced cherry bitters, some cherry vanilla bitters, some chocolate bitters. We have put corn in Spanish oak barrels. So we've done a lot of weird, odd, unique things, all intentional, all with the absolute hope that they come out and end up bottled. A lot of the corns so far have come out, all the corns so far have come out as single barrels and have not come out under the line of us, but that doesn't mean that we won't put out corn at sometime in the future that comes under the Dancing Goat corn whiskey label. And we'll make it very clear that it was all sourced. We are making corn whiskey. We are making single malt whiskey at the Goat. We are making bourbons, ryes, et cetera, et cetera. So we're already making that. We just don't have aged product to the point where we're putting out our own stuff yet and supplanting other things. Mm-hmm. And we'll always be in the business of buying barrels. And we'll make it very clear that when they're not ours, that they're not ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you see the timeline for having some of your own out like that?
I think right now we're very, very focused on not ever putting anything in a bottle that's less than 5 years old.
Okay.
And going 5 to 6. One of the favorite stories that I tell about the industry is when Jay Henry pulled a DSP, and I'm putting on Distill America. And because I have access, I figured out a way to get access to who had permits in the state of Wisconsin so I could call them up, invite them to my event. They ignored me for 4 straight years, never returned the phone calls as if they didn't exist. And they sat on stocks and they didn't put anything out for 5 years. And I give them all the credit in the world because that's just money out. It's all inventory out. So to put out something that you're proud of, and I don't want to get into the minutia with a whole lot of people discussing, well, rye ages faster. You can put out a really good 4-year-old rye. How about we just set the bar somewhere around 5 or 6 years and just don't do anything below that?
All right.
So that's kind of the thought process we have going into it.
Well, Alan, you had a similar approach on your rye, right?
Yeah, we went opposite of the everybody does rye at 2 years thing, and everybody's doing 95.5 rye. So we basically went George Washington mash bill, switched that out with aromatic Munich 30 malt instead of regular Distillers malt. And then the thing was, now let's do 2-year bourbon, and then we'll do 5-year rye. And then we go 2-year bourbon, then 4-year-old bottled and bond bourbon, and then rye at 5 years. And actually next bottling is going to be 6 years because why not?
Right. Absolutely. And it's not, I mean, to me, we get so hung up in numbers, the numbers game. Okay. Can't tell you how many times I get in discussions that how did I get in this discussion about proof points? All I really care about is, do you like it? Are you going to drink it? Are you going to buy it? Does it fit your palate? Because I used to say there should be 0 rules in drinking, but there probably is one. And if there is one rule in drinking, it's first and foremost, never tell anybody how to drink. And number 2, try it neat based upon somebody way smarter than us put it into a bottle, or at least what they're passionate about the bottle. Then there are no rules. Try it the way they wanted you to try it, and then there are no rules. So this whole notion about, well, I don't drink anything less than 100, or I only drink 112 and up.
Right.
Okay. I don't even know what that means.
That's all understanding your consumer too, because those guys, I don't drink anything unless it's the Weller guys, right?
Yep.
Right.
Not my customer. Keep moving.
It's not our customer, and it's also the very, very small minority of customers. I mean, you cannot build a craft brewery on people that only drink double IPAs. Right. Just like you cannot build a craft distillery on people that only drink cask strength. It just, I mean, you maybe you'd employ yourself, okay, and sell a few cases here and a few cases there. But to hit a wider swath of people, you have to meet them where they want to drink.
Yes, exactly.
So, and that to me is not what I end up talking about a lot of times, because a lot of people, all they really care about is, oh, well, that's good. But to me, that whole notion of it, thank God we're past the point now in Wisconsin. And I don't know, Alan, if you're there yet in Indiana, but we're past the point of people buying it because it's local, if it's not good or if it's marginal.
Absolutely.
That was 5 years ago. We saw that kind of sea change, and that it has to be local is the bonus to it has to be good.
Well, and the weird thing I'm seeing, and you might be seeing this too, and I agree, it has to be the quality thing, right? That's what people care about. Right. What I'm seeing, and maybe it's because my brain was already there 6-7 years ago at Spirits of French Liquor when we first started. We put down a whole lot of weird stuff. And that hasn't stopped because it seems to now be quality, but also ready, fire, aim. Who knew, like, some of this shit, like, if you knew, you would have made a whole lot more of it years
whole lot
ago.
more day one.
Yeah, exactly. We do a buckwheat bourbon and I hate it. And I have no qualms about saying that I hate it. It's not my thing. It has like a Reese's Pieces thing going for it. And I thought when we made it, I was like, we're never selling any of this. We did like 12 barrels year one. And then it turns out to be like the one product that I can get like the hardcore bourbon drinker to go for. Right. Like it's the one that like the guys that are normally the Weller guys, I'm like, not my customer, keep moving. It's the one they want.
It's the one they want.
Right.
And you're speaking my language because I'm the idiot that walks into the farmer's market and wants to buy buckwheat honey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm that guy because it's dark, it's rich, it's got umami, it's savory, it doesn't taste like honey. And nobody in my family likes it. So I get that honey all to myself.
Well, I'll bring you some of his buckwheat bourbon.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me know if you need anything, Kevin, because I'll just send some stuff with you when you go up. So
okay. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Absolutely.
All right. So Alan, what do you think of this corn whiskey?
So this corn whiskey is not it's a nice soft corn whiskey. And the thing that I really like about it is the balance is there, and one of the things that doesn't often happen necessarily with mellow corn, and I think it has a lot to do with the way that they blend their bottles, and I do like mellow corn, is that sometimes it seems like mellow corn loses that corn flavor, right? It loses a little bit of what actually should make corn whiskey. What I like about this is there's also not a ton of diacetyl. There is a little bit of that like buttered movie popcorn, but it's off to the side.
Right.
There's two notes in here that jump out to me. They're not super strong, but they make it more interesting than just a straight corn whiskey. There's a little bit of a cardamom note that's in there, almost like leaning towards like Dr. Pepper, just a hair, a little bit. And then because I started coughing, I almost died a while ago. I'm trying to remember what the other note was that I came up with. Grains of Paradise, just a little bit of like, not black pepper. And I use this all the time, but Grains of Paradise is basically everything black pepper wishes it was. It's not it's not the entirety of the palate. It's right down the middle and just a little bit of spice to let you know you're drinking something.
Yeah.
No, we're super proud of this. I think one of the things is that we hear a lot when we bottle at cask, or even when we bottle our flagship limo at 93. That's 116, almost 117, that corn whiskey. And I don't think it drinks anywhere near that.
No. And it's literally, it's like a slightly salted tortilla chip. It's fantastic.
Sure. Absolutely. I think it's got a base note of, there's a level of umami there that's not just straight sugar. Okay. That gives you a savory component, like you're talking about, with not baking spices in any way, shape, or form, but that straightforward kind of Grains of Paradise kind of rip off pepper. And I think one of the things, and I don't know if Alan, you get this, a lot of times we get ticked on at the Goat, we get ticked on being balanced for the people that like massive punch flavors. And they're like, oh, that is not a rye drinker's rye.
Oh, yeah.
I tried not to do a rye drinker's rye. So you nailed it. Thank you.
Well, I have a joke that I tell, which is that, we all have our preferences, and my distilling preference is much like my preference for ladies. I like ladies with a little meat on them. Right. I like them to be a little thicker. And that's how my distillations come off. So
got it. No, and again, it's that fatty component. Okay. I think if you lean in hard on that fatty, oily component, you get a lot of that. And then you get a much more interesting product. And I'm really super, super happy and proud of what we're putting in bottles right now. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's great stuff right there.
Thank you.
So,
the Dr. Pepper
some stuff your way too, Alan. So we'll get you some stuff back.
the Dr. Pepper nailed it. I was thinking cola, but there's a Dr. Pepper note in there.
Well,
really interesting.
It's funny that we started this tasting with the gin, because normally I would go like exact opposite. So I would do the whiskey first, then the gin. But you guys got me started on gin, and as you know, Kevin, I love botanical stuff.
Yep.
So the Dr. Pepper note was floating around my head, because you guys will laugh at this. Fred, you'll like this. One of my current projects is developing a gin that's based on the 23 flavors of Dr. Pepper. So in the past 24 hours, I've tasted cardamom a few times. So as soon as I tasted it there, I was like, okay, yep.
There it is.
Yep.
No, it's interesting because when you were up, Kevin, you saw the start of the Gin Academy, right?
Yes.
So Alan, what we did was we built the first in the United States Gin Academy, where we put in 16 little private one-hitter stills. where you sign up for a class and 2 hours later you leave with the gin you just made. And it's us trying to provide an educational experience for folks and demystifying distillation and demystifying craft beverage production. So it's that whole notion of it's not just for our consumers, it's as much for our accounts as it is anything. Because the minute you walk into Dancing Goat and you see a rick house and you see open fermentation, you see closed fermentation, you see 5 different stills, and then you get a chance to make stuff yourself. I mean, then you're starting to tell a story for us, about us, and then with us, because we're both partners. So that whole notion of, I mean, I don't want to brag, but when I got my daughter's boyfriend for Christmas a little Gin Academy experience, I looked across the table because Beth and I were there with the two, and he looked at his girlfriend, our daughter, with that look like, old man's not bad.
Right. So,
and then he had that look, and then he told me later, he's like, my dad never would have done this. And I'm like, yes, big win.
No, and
So
I love
the notion of us being able to tell a story by helping you be part of the story.
And I love that, because I love that educational component, because that's something I'm big on. That's why I spend so much time with Distillers talking one piece at a time and all that stuff. But those hands-on experiences, and Fred, here's kind of a question for you that I have to ask. And at some point I want to get you on Distillers talk too, because I think we can go in depth on those things there. But I'm sure with those gin experiences, there have been times that you have learned as much from somebody that didn't know what the hell they were doing as what they learned from you. And you're like, how the hell did you get that flavor
Absolutely.
from this thing?
And we've got Patrick is leading our experiences right now. He's our front of the house manager. So we've rolled it out very intentionally and reasonably slowly. So he is running all of those. I'll eventually be dovetailed into that at some point. But just being on the other side, we realized a couple things. First off, we realized that there's very clearly a Gin 101 class that is needed, where you're doing more and providing a scaffolding for people to make choices, where you're basically, so if you look at our apothecary cabinet at the front of the room in this really cool science lab, it gives you examples of about 16 different gins that are recognizable by bottles, and people can then say, hey, that's the one I like. That's the one I like. I like the Botanist. How do I make something like that? And then 201 is that whole notion of, we're not going to give you recipes. You're going to be able to play with your recipe more. We're going to have more intentional conversations. It might not be a 2-hour class, it might be a 2.5 while we figure out what you like. But it was just, for example, I mean, I didn't realize that licorice root was all sugar. It's just sugar. It has nothing to do with anise or star anise or the term licorice.
It's all mouthfeel.
Yep. And it just was this great learning. I mean, I don't know what the great part about taking that class, and you said cardamom, is we're eating, if you want, in gin class, you're tasting all of those botanicals to be able to see if you like them. And I mean, who eats cardamom pods whole? You might cook with them occasionally, but infrequently. So it's one of those cool things where you're actually tasting stuff and you're digging it, because then it appeals to chefs as much as it does to cocktail people and people at home bartend.
Well, it's even funny too. I'll mention this real quick. Like the second book that I did, which I focus a lot on recipes and stuff like that. And I preface all those recipes with like, I spent a lot of time and money doing this, like not giving you the exact recipe. I'm giving you a recipe and it'll get you close to what I do. But I expect you to play with these numbers, because even for advanced home distillers, like they're just, a lot of them are just now getting to that point.
Sure.
Right. So they have to have that basis, that understand. They have to have done like Odin's simple gin recipe or some shit out there on the internet first before they ever even touch that book. So
sure, just be we can all do compound gins in our house today.
Yeah.
Without a still, and people don't even know that there's a term called compound gin and that they can do it. It's basically teabagging, for God's sakes. I mean, we all know the process of making, tea. It's that notion of letting people run a little bit. I mean, you see it in home brewing. You used to sell people extract kits if you're a homebrew supply store. Now they sell very few extract kits and very few recipes, and they sell ingredients because people have already moved to that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're going to segue into a music conversation here that I don't know that any of us are after seeing what the list turned out to be.
Horrible idea, Kevin. Terrible.
Yeah, well, they all can't be winners. I think that's a Primus song, but
They all can't be Debbie Gibson.
they all can't be Debbie Gibson. But since Fred's been on the show before, we weren't going to do the same old thing with him. And so he's a veteran of Bourbon Turntable. So I came up with the idea of, well, let's look at what the top 100 Billboard rankings were when each of us would have been 18 or most likely senior year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went through and went down the lists and I've listed out the top 5 for each of us. And then I kind of scanned the rest of the list and picked 3 others that I thought were, let's just call it interesting, for lack of a better word, because I don't know that there is a better word. Horrible, horrific, nightmarish, maybe other words we could use. But so we'll start with our guest, Fred, and go through his list. And so there's the list.
Oh, it's just tragic. It's just everybody in there is either gone or playing the state fair, county fair circuit.
Well,
there's your bellwether.
All right. So if you're
and Lionel
listening,
Richie is known for his daughter.
Well, now, yeah. If you're listening to the show on a podcast and not watching on YouTube, I'll go through the list very quickly. So again, I listed out the top 5 singles from the year that Fred turned 18, and so at number 1 was "Betty Davis Eyes" by Kim Carnes, which honestly I really like that song. I think it's kind of cool. Then we have "Endless Love" by Diana Ross and Lionel Richie. Number 3,
fucking Kenny Rogers,
is "Lady" by Kenny Rogers. We don't even have "The Gambler" by Kenny Rogers. We have "Lady" by Kenny Rogers.
Oh my God.
And then John Lennon. Okay, we like John Lennon. His song "Starting Over." Then, you can play along with the charade. It's "Jesse's Girl," Rick Springfield.
which is now going to unfortunately be stuck in my head all night.
Oh, I wish that I had "Jesse's Girl." Okay,
I don't know about Kentucky or Indiana, but Jesse's Girl to this day is played at every Wisconsin wedding along with tequila.
Oh, I bet you if you flipped on WQMF right now, Kevin, Jesse's Girl is on WQMF.
If it's not on, it'll be on in the next
in
20
3
minutes.
weeks to Madison.
Awesome. Then I picked out 3 others that were in the top 100 for that year. "Rapture" by Blondie, 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton, and then "Elvira" by the Oak Ridge Boys. Oh, I've entertained myself, if nobody else.
Oh my God.
So
There's so many things that I mean, I could talk for 50 minutes about that whole list, that whole train.
Is there anything on that list that you think, okay, I kind of like that, or this was a song that I actually listened to voluntarily when I was 18 years old?
And the one for me that sticks out is "Blondie," because she couldn't have been more different in my era, and was a little bit polarizing when she came out. But she owned her sexuality. She was out there. She was very seductive, and she had a great voice. Okay.
Yep.
And she pushed the envelopes of, she certainly wasn't new age or new wave, and she really wasn't quite punk. But she was pop punk, if that was even a category.
Yep.
And I liked her for that.
Right.
I mean, 9
and
to 5.
And a little bit of disco. There's a little disco in there.
There is. I mean, she had a beat that went on forever.
Some people say that this may have been one of the first rap songs.
Oh, absolutely, because she literally does a spoken word thing all the way through.
Right.
No, the crazy part is that my only connection to the Oak Ridge Boys is that when Beth and I moved out to Las Vegas after college, I literally played softball on Wayne Newton's softball team.
Mm-hmm.
And we would play the Playboy Girls of Rock and Roll and the Oak Ridge Boys whenever they came through Vegas. So that's my only connection to the Oak Ridge Boys, is that I played them at 4 a.m. in a softball field after Wayne was done doing shows on the Strip.
So if Alan, if you had to say any one of these songs that would be enduring, that even today, what one or two of these from Fred's list would you say would fit that category of being enduring?
It's not my thing. I'll
Mhm.
just say that up front. But if I talk shit about Dolly Parton, someone will slit my throat. So I gotta back Dolly Parton.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Oh.
I'm a theater major. I've done that show a number of times. 9 to 5. There's a lot of good music there, and quite honestly, the way she has come back into our recognition in the last couple 3 years, particularly
Yeah.
during COVID, and both politically and through social justice means, the
Mhm.
woman's all solid. I don't.
Yeah.
Mad
I-
respect for her.
I grew up in East Tennessee, and you know, Dolly is just she's legendary there. Well, she's legendary everywhere, but what she meant to that region of the country, there's no way to overstate what she's done. And while 9 to 5 may not be the greatest song that she's ever written,
No.
nobody can say she's not solid as they come.
Right.
And I'm not one that would cross the street to meet most celebrities. I'd run a few city blocks to see Dolly.
To see Dolly, sure.
You wouldn't have to. She'd just turn her side profile, and part of her would meet you.
That'd be okay too. I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that.
And quite honestly, I mean, we've got this weird connection now in Wisconsin to Dolly Parton just in the last few weeks with Dolly Parton and Molly Cyrus, and that collab song that they did being banned by the school district in Waukesha. So, I mean, you can say what you want about Dolly and you can say what you want about her politics, but she's still relevant.
Yeah.
She's still relevant.
Yeah. Yep. Dolly's the best. All right, Alan, we're going to go over your stuff now.
Yay.
So on Alan's list, the top 5 from his.
I love how you put the Nickelback picture on there too, because you know,
Yes.
I see what you've done here, Kevin.
Well, whoever was number 1 got their picture there.
Sure.
On Fred's,
sure.
it was Kim Carnes.
Yeah,
and,
look at that. Look at that stupid fucking face. Look at that photograph. Look at that photograph.
Okay, Nickelback, How You Remind Me is number 1. And I'm looking at this picture of these guys, and it's like every one of those guys they're begging to be punched in the face. They just got that look, don't they?
They're all the same guys that, like, you know, they all smell like Axe body spray. Like they drive S10s, but they think they're driving 4x4s. It's bad.
Oh golly. So I have to admit there are some of the songs on this list that I don't know. Like I said, How You Remind Me by Nickelback was number 1. Number 2 was Foolish by Ashanti. Is that how you say that, Alan? Ashanti?
I don't know, buddy.
Ashanti.
Then,
I don't know.
Ashanti. And then you've got Hot in Here by Nelly.
Hot in here.
Take off your clothes. Then number 4 was Dilemma by Nelly featuring Kelly Rowland.
I'm pretty sure Beyonce killed Kelly Rowland and like hit her somewhere because nobody's heard of her since that song came out.
Then we have Wherever You Will Go by The Calling. And then I picked out 3 others from the list.
For the love of God, thank you.
My Sacrifice by Creed.
Oh, trash. Trash.
Get the Party Started by Pink. I think that is the other song that's played at every Wisconsin wedding, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's played before every football game in Wisconsin.
Oh man. And then the middle,
Pearl
Jimmy
Jam
Eat World.
Creed is what Pearl Jam would have been if they were like an overly evangelical Christian band.
Sure. If they were the Striper.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yes.
If Striper and Pearl Jam had a baby, it'd be Creed.
Yes. So ironically, with your extra picks, and thank you for that.
You're welcome.
You did get one on there that while most people won't know the bands probably anymore, it's actually a song that I've listened to a lot, and I listened to a lot at that point in time. And it was also on my Go Fuck Yourselves Copper and Kings list when I quit, which was Jimmy Eat World the Middle. I fucking love that song.
It's a great song.
Isn't that unlike half the soundtracks that have been released since the song came out? I mean, it seems like that song's just everywhere.
Pretty sure Seth Rogen just throws it on soundtracks every time he does a movie. He forgets what he put in the last one. He's like, "Oh, do some Jimmy Eat World."
Fred, any thoughts on this list?
I'm looking at that, and I mean, I mean, I have zero issues with Nelly, honestly. But that Pink song, I think, really resonates because I love her power. I love the fact that she has a voice that just goes to 10 immediately. Yep. And that Jimmy Eat World is one of those, not obscure by any stretch. If you know that music at that time, they were underrated, I think, for sure.
Absolutely. That album was great too. That whole album was
really good.
I'm going to throw this out there. I will listen to Nelly and Pink make farting noises into a microphone before I would ever consciously listen to Nickelback. No matter what she has in her mouth, because those are the worst lyrics ever.
Yes.
Part of me, I look at performers like Pink, and when she's interviewed, she is just about as open and as honest. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think one of my favorite was she did that thing with Ellen, and it was that buzzer thing, and it was, I mean, she was open as hell.
And she's smart.
She's super smart. Yeah. You know, she talks about her downfalls. I mean, I'm all about that, but I think Pink's awesome.
Yeah. So. I don't necessarily like this song.
Sure.
And to say that I listen to a lot of Pink's music would be a lie.
Every time
she's got a fantastic voice.
Yeah, every time you put that picture up, you trigger me. Stop.
No, we're on to Kevin's list.
Well, you want to be triggered. Here you go, buddy.
You gotta love the feathering.
Yeah.
The feathering is awesome.
Oh my gosh. All right. So
wham!
For my 18th year on this planet, we were graced with Careless Whisper by George Michael, Like a Virgin by Madonna, Wake Me Up Before You Go by Wham. So George Michael was really busy in 1985. I Want to Know What Love Is by Foreigner, probably the worst Foreigner song of all time.
Probably also on QMF right now.
Probably also. Yes. Okay. I'll tell you what. I Feel For You by Chaka Khan. I love that song.
It's a great song.
Written by Prince.
Yep.
Stevie Wonder plays the harmonica on it. And the rap part at the beginning that Grandmaster Melly Mel did, I used to be able to do that verbatim. Okay. Back in the day, I could do that. Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan. So then Dire Straits' Money for Nothing, which that song has been heard a time or two since then. We Built This City by Starship and The Power of Love by Huey Lewis.
Fuck yeah.
Okay. We Built This City by Starship is the worst song ever recorded.
You are not wrong. Nothing
it is
screams
horrible.
Nothing screams you guys shouldn't have done this more than the first note of that song.
Oh, it's just so cringy. It is so bad. And I just it's horrifying. We Built This City by Starship, worst song ever. But
I will say,
I think
the analogy is as the song Beth is to Kiss, so too is We Built This City to Starship.
Do you guys think it's possible that Michael might have been the sperm donor for Chad Kroger? I'm just wondering, looking at that picture. I mean, it seems
there's
like
that picture. There's that picture.
Seems like a distinct possibility.
He's ugly. This man is pretty, and why he ever actually had to officially come out, I don't know. When you see this, but I like some of George Michael's music. Careless Whisper is not necessarily a song that I would gravitate to, nor would be Wake Me Up Before You Go. But George Michael's was a talented gentleman. And Freedom by George Michael is a song that I really do like.
Yeah,
but Money for Nothing, that that song was kind of everywhere in '85. And of course, Sting found a way to weasel himself into it and gain writing credits because I Want My MTV was sang to the tune of Don't Stand So Close to Me. So way to go, Sting. And then Power of Love by Huey Lewis. I like that song. It was the tie-in to the Back to the Future movie. The summer of 1985, that song was absolutely everywhere. And I didn't mind that a bit. So you guys have any thoughts on this list?
I just wish that, I mean, everybody that's a musician loves Dire Straits. I think everybody appreciates Dire Straits. I don't think the general populace understood Dire Straits and their musicality.
You're right.
I think one of the best pop songs that they ever did was Twisted by the Pool. You know, that's an earworm that is beyond. And was it their best song? Absolutely not. Okay. But that entire Sultans of Swing album was phenomenal.
It was
There was not a dog
fantastic.
on that album.
No, and you can't mess with Mark Knopfler. Listen, he's the only mainstream musician that I know of that has a fucking dinosaur named after him. Literally. Literally, because the archaeologist that dug it up, or the paleontologist that dug it up, was listing the Dire Straits at the time, and there is a dinosaur called the Knopflersaurus. That is a true strange fact for the day for you.
That is awesome.
I love Huey Lewis. I'll throw that out there. I love Back to the Future. I love Huey Lewis. I have a Huey Lewis centric playlist. Like, if I'm in a shitty mood and I've had a bad day at work, I'm blasting Huey Lewis on the way home.
Yeah.
It's happening, and I'll be in a great mood.
Yes.
And then Dad will say something about how he likes Nickelback, and I'll be like, "You're getting out and walking home. Don't bring up that band in my car again, ever."
We didn't really say much about Madonna. I was never a big Madonna fan, and certainly am not a Madonna fan these days. But that was pretty groundbreaking territory back in the day.
Oh, absolutely. The way she pushed every single boundary.
Yeah.
I mean, there were other women of that time, Blondie certainly being one of them. You could certainly say Wendy O. Williams of the Plasmatics was boundary breaking, even though she had virtually no difference in music. But she owned her stage presence. And Madonna was this really, really iconic person that has turned into was iconic instead of is iconic.
Right.
You know, the other one that doesn't get mentioned from that same time period that often, and to be fair, they weren't huge in the United States, but I think certainly another one of those female performers of that same time period that did a lot and really influenced a lot of later kind of female-led, I guess you'd call them, new metal bands, but Susie Sue.
Yeah.
I mean, she set the trend for a lot. I mean, all the way down to, and she's relevant now because the whole Wednesday, the Wednesday Addams TV show, and her taking some of the dance moves from Susie Sue's videos.
Absolutely. I'd also throw Chrissy Hine from the Pretenders in that conversation. I remember being at the Thomas and Mack Center in Vegas when they were barely a thing and they had played to the half of the house. So it was a show for maybe 8,000 people. 3/4 of the room was up top and this bottom hadn't sold out. And she just said, "Fuck it. Y'all get down here now. We're all going to party together." And everybody just came down.
Oh yeah.
And it was just one of those things that she knew she was breaking every single rule. She knew that nobody wanted her to do that. But the bottom line was, I'm not playing to you up there. I want to play to you here in front of me.
Right.
Yep.
So that says a lot about a person and how they take their music really super seriously. And she to me is one of those iconic women as well.
Yeah.
I had the experience. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was going to say you could throw Pat Benatar.
Oh, totally.
In that as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had an experience like that one time with Morrissey, where he didn't sell out the upper balcony of the Louisville Gardens because that's it's a tertiary market at best for Morrissey. But he's like, "Hey, come down front." Fuck yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll keep moving until they make me stop as well. So don't get me wrong. When we're done here, Morrissey, I'm still going to KFC, but I'm going to be right there out front. So.
Oh, okay. So a moment for redemption for everybody. If the list from your 18th year, your senior year of high school, wasn't well represented, real representative of what you were actually listening to, any idea what you were listening to in your senior year, Fred?
I was listening to early Joe Jackson. for sure. Before he
gosh.
went jazz.
Yeah.
Total musician. I was listening to, I think I told you the last time I was on, first album I ever bought was Boston. Their debut album, the one that Spaceship looks like a guitar.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I was listening to a lot of, at that point in time, whatever I could grab my hands on from Los Lobos. Okay. Before they'd even put out even an EP, but we were scratching and getting stuff from my buddy in Texas. And then I was listening to stuff like Foreigner and Styx and Boston, power stuff. And then musicians. Everybody hates a lot of things, and Toto gets hated on a lot, but those are all studio musicians that played studio for everybody. And I like their musicality too. So I listened to a little bit of that.
Toto's a band that I went back and revisited last year, and they're fantastic. They're just incredibly talented.
I bartended backstage for Boston a couple summers ago when they came through Madison right before the COVID. And just like Rick Nielsen at Cheap Trick, who's probably 70 if he's a minute, his voice is still on point. So is and I don't even remember his name, or maybe never even knew his name, the lead singer for Boston. He's 70 years old and he still sounds awesome. So that was who I was listening to.
Okay. Alan, how about you?
Let's see. So we went 2001 on this. So A Perfect Circle, Mirrored in Alms, for sure, which is still absolutely relevant as far as I'm concerned, and just a beautifully produced record as well for being really Billy Howardell and Josh Freese, and then Maynard coming in and putting vocals over top of it. And then Days of the New Red definitely came out that fall. Didn't do anything. It just happened to got released on September 11th. So, it got plowed over by all that stuff.
Right.
But still one that I go back to quite often.
Yeah. Well, I was really digging back into classic rock around that time. I was listening to a lot of the Rolling Stones, a lot of Led Zeppelin. And I did listen to a lot of Huey Lewis. And REM. Again, REM before everybody else was listening to REM.
Sure.
I just thought of another one that I'd missed before too. I don't know how I did, but Radiohead, because the Kid A and Amnesiac albums were right around that time period, and I burned those up, man. Strangely enough, I don't like any of their other albums. It's just those two outliers that I really like.
Did you say something about Queens of the Stone Age as well?
Yeah, so 2002 would have been when I actually turned 18, and that was rated R, or not rated R. Songs for the Deaf came out that year, which I absolutely loved. And then another band that kind of got forgotten, and they never really were big here, but they're just fantastic, especially when they play acoustic. Was Lacuna Coil, and that was a big thing that I listened to in that time period. But when you look at that 2002 list, you also get fucking Chad Kroeger again with that stupid song from Spider-Man that is the most annoying song that's ever been written, that every time I have fever nightmares in my life, the most 10 annoying catchy seconds of that song repeat over and over and over again in my head for some reason.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
You hope you find a way to not have nightmarish fever dreams tonight. So
if you talk about nightmarish soundtrack things, in my era, it was, well, not quite when I was 18, but certainly reasonably close. It was Flash from Flash Gordon with Freddie Mercury.
Oh, that was such a disappointment. Wow, Queen's doing the soundtrack for this movie.
Right.
Oh no.
Oh, this is not good. The one that blew me away, and I just started watching it again recently, was because he's operatic, okay, and he very much was, that whole rock opera thing. And then when I went down a YouTube wormhole and started watching his performance with Pavarotti, when they're on the stage together, just with voices, and it doesn't matter if you like Queen or not, you have to like that voice.
Oh yeah,
you have to understand how good that voice is. It gives you a lot of appreciation.
Yeah.
So, and then when he did that warm up for about 6 or 7 minutes at Farm Aid, and he's just out there and he's just getting the crowd to sing along with him, 50,000
Yep.
people just doing a warm up. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Probably the best front man that there was.
Yeah, possibly. You could argue that all day. Sure.
Yeah. Well, we won't argue that tonight. Maybe another time. But so we'll start wrapping stuff up here. And Fred, if you want to share with everybody where they can find you and Dancing Goat on social media and Distill America as well.
Absolutely. We are all over social media at Dancing Goat and then dancinggoat.com. If you need to know where we are for a deeper dive, we're in Cambridge, Wisconsin, just east of downtown Madison. Distill America is at distillamerica.com and Distill America on Facebook. Our tickets are available there. There are only general admission left. Those are $70. That'll get you 3 hours of unlimited samplings and discounted cab rides home anywhere in the county, because I won't put on an event that does not have a plan for exit, if you know what I mean. So
Yes.
it costs me a fair amount of money to subsidize that, but my generation has not taken drinking and driving seriously. My kids' generation has, and not everybody that comes to my events are from my kids' generation. So,
right.
So until we learn as older folk what the hell that all means, we're going to help to provide you a way home safely.
Well,
That's
that's
awesome.
terrific. Yeah. All right, Alan, where can folks find you?
You can find me at spiritsofrenchlick.com, thealchemistcabinet.com, the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube. If you have Ghosts, you have everything, and Distillers Talk wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're on your way up to Wisconsin and you're going to go to Distill America, maybe on the way or afterwards, in fact, not before, afterwards, but June 10th, you might make plans to come out to Daisy Spring Mill State Park in southern Indiana, where we are doing a tasting event. It's limited to 400 people. There's 8 craft distilleries from the state of Indiana set up in the historic park in the village, selling their wares and doing tastings. You have to have a designated driver, or you can stay at the campgrounds and we will shuttle you back and forth. And I will be in the distillery talking about the restoration of the distillery, and all the money from the festival goes into that restoration of that historic distillery.
Yeah, it's a very cool project. Very cool project. Yeah. As for us, you can find Bourbon Turntable on YouTube if you want to watch the show. If you go over there to watch, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. If you just want to listen to the show, we're on your favorite podcast platform, as long as it's Apple, Spotify, or Google. We also have a Facebook page where we will post our shows every week. We have a Facebook group where we invite people to come in, share with everybody. What are you drinking? What are you listening to while you're drinking it? Maybe it's something we haven't tried before. Maybe it's something we haven't tried in a while, but it's always fun to see what people are into. So I appreciate you guys being here tonight and indulging my silly little list. I think it was fun, if nothing else. We're funny. So
before we forget, Kevin, I forgot about this until just now, but we need to remind people to join our new Facebook page that we're both moderators of, which is called Cancel Nickelback.
I think that's already done.
All right, how about we can change the name still. It's early on. Just erase Nickelback.
Erase Nickelback. Okay.
Master tapes and all.
That'll work. That'll work. All right. Wow. Until next time, on behalf of Alan, who's sitting in for Drew quite capably, and our good friend Fred, thank you very much for watching. Cheers, love, and free bird. Good night, everybody.